who add you on Facebook, you haven't talked to them since high school, and they say, "Hey, how's it going? What do you do for work? How you like to be your own boss?"
Boss babe.
Look here, boss babe. I don't need coffee that costs $11 that makes me shit. I don't.
Okay, boss babes are the real infidels. Let's just agree on that right now.
They're
Boss
gonna.
babes are the real infidels.
Well, as you see,
That's
my
the quote.
tradition.
Howdy, welcome to Minority Report, a podcast where we minorities and a token straight white guy discuss culture and politics in a laid-back fashion. And right now, we are barreling to spooky Halloween. But what is more spooky than our foreign policy? Before we get started on this topic, how about we get started on introducing ourselves? So, biological ladies first, the lovely Nafisa, straight from Miami.
Hey, so my name is Nafisa. Hi. I am female, biologically, yes, and from Bangladesh.
You're so brave. I will
Thank
wear pink pussy hats for you.
Yes, the Women's March, please be there.
Yeah, that's a worthwhile endeavor.
March in high heels too.
Yeah. Let me
I
tell
mean,
you.
it's my more gay thing. But so Nafisa, would you like to show us or tell us about your foreign policy experience?
Sure. So I am an immigrant from Bangladesh. I actually just got my citizenship last year.
And this is the real
which is
congratulations.
a lot.
Good job.
I love more spice in the American melting pot.
Yeah, of course, obviously, right. So that took me, it took me 18 years to get my citizenship, but I got it. And so that's like my experience with foreign policy. Also, I live in Miami. So is it Miami or is it like little Cuba? You know? I don't know.
Cubano pequeño. Yes. And things not so pequeño. We're going to head over to Al Mike Abu Hancho.
Yes, Abu Honcho or Mike Honcho is what I prefer. I am clearly protecting my identity from the inevitable doxing that's going to happen. I am a veteran. I've been serving foreign policy at the end of a rifle for the better part of the last 10 years. I can bring a different perspective on the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria for some reason, and just kind of speak on the plight of the average millennial going on with the decisions we've made over the last 2 decades with American foreign policy.
Yes, most definitely. And what is your official race? I'm not going to let this go.
Oh, I am a white person.
Boo!
Yeah. Oh, all that air condition that you guys are enjoying. It really is awful.
Yikes.
And the internet we're talking on, and the Western civilization.
A little bit of privilege there. Your privilege is showing.
Oh my goodness. And I'm your host, Christopher Ian Soler. I am a gay Asian immigrant, and as far as my foreign policy experience goes, I am a Marine veteran, but I never deployed, so don't thank me for my cervix. And I'm an immigrant from the Philippines. And don't get me wrong, I love certain parts of the country, but until they get limited refills, I'm team climate change.
And I save the turtles.
All right. So to get on our first topic of foreign policy, we're going to go to Abu Hancho over here. So Abu Hancho, in your opinion, what do you believe are the mistakes that the United States has made towards Muslim majority countries, and how do you believe we can remedy these errors?
So, American foreign policy, when it comes to Islam and everything that's going on in the Muslim world, and like you have to use Muslim in quotation marks because even the Muslim majority countries are so divided and split on what actual Islam is. What you're seeing is American interventionalism turning essentially into quagmires, right? So you can trace American foreign policy with Muslims all the way back to Bill Clinton's era. We have been sticking our dick into things that it doesn't belong into for so long now that it's the American way. Like what is more American than a Big Mac, a drone strike, and pulling out of a country too early, creating a power vacuum, making a caliphate that you have to go back and fight in the next 5 years so you can go ahead and give more money to government contractors in order to continue to perpetuate war. Because if we're not making bombs, then are we really doing our part to help the world?
Most definitely. And to throw out a statistic on drone strikes, during the Obama administration, in the Pew survey of 2013, around 56% of Americans approved of drone strikes, majorities of both Republicans and Democrats, with only 26% disapproving. And in 17 out of 19 countries surveyed by the Pew Research Group, over 50% of their populations disapproved of drone strikes.
Drone strikes are the American majority feels like, so the whole like, oh, let's thank our service members for what they're doing. Why send our brave boys over there to fight when we can just drone them? Drones don't hold land. Drones are only effective in creating more insurgents. The first military age male you kill, well, congratulations, you killed him and his two cousins and some other kid, and now we've created 10 insurgents in the place of the one we actually killed. Why?
Yeah, most definitely. And just to throw out a hypothetical question, just around the table, personally, if a country like China were to drone strike my family and say, oh, sorry, we thought we were going towards terrorists, but we'll just write this off as collateral damage, honestly, I would retaliate violently in turn. I would be that deep in my grief. I would be so vulnerable to a group that says, hey, you think you have nothing to live for? Well, we think that you can make a sacrifice to get back at them and fulfill your vengeance. I mean, just personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes to serve more extremism. Like, even where it was not there before, now you have that type of revenge-filled mindset. I think that's definitely a fair assumption, and I think that's what he was talking about, too, with regards to, you get rid of one person, now you have, like, a whole other group to fight because of collateral damage.
Yes, we made it personal. There's been multiple instances to where we bombed wedding parties, and just recently, over a couple dozen pine nut farmers were killed in a drone strike.
Yeah, well, why?
Right.
So the intelligence clearly wasn't good. We killed a bunch of farmers. Now we have a vacuum in that area. We've destroyed a local economy. We're going to do the American thing. We're going to go in there. We're going to pay off the families, and they're going to use the money we pay them off to funnel radical extremism in that area. We will see a rise in radical extreme recruiting in that area. You can see the statistics painted out, and it's gross. You see like areas that we do essentially education fulfillment in the area, you see a decrease in radical extremism. Areas that we drone, you see a rise in it. There's a main supply route in Afghanistan that leads from Pakistan into Afghanistan. And the amount of drone striking we did under the Obama administration, you can see a rise in radical Muslim recruiting in that area. And it's a gross self-fulfilling prophecy, but we don't want to, like, the military-industrial complex is there.
Yeah.
And going off on that too, because I am from Bangladesh, which was East Pakistan, or it was, 1971, whatnot. So there's still a lot of familial ties between Pakistan and Bangladesh. I personally don't have that just because my family fought in the war against Pakistan, right? But a lot of people in the government, people in farming areas, you see there is a definite rising statistic of young boys disappearing. And it's assumed and it's understood by most people that they are being inducted into Pakistan and those extremist groups and stuff, and that's a rising concern. And Bangladesh is not as extremist whatsoever as Pakistan is.
Yeah, most
it's
definitely.
a legitimate thing.
Yeah, too many folks. This is where a lot of American publics have fault to where they just write this off as, oh, mistakes happen in war, innocents will get caught in the crossfire. That's some excuse for us to not mitigate these tragedies. Because as we all been mentioning, that every innocent life that we take is justification for them to retaliate in kinds, just from an emotional standpoint. And before someone, in case anyone out there wants to accuse me of sympathizing with terrorists, I say damn straight, I would treat this human problem like a human problem.
You can killing terrorists isn't a bad thing. Killing farmers is. I wouldn't. So the best parable you can use is a group of extremists flew a couple planes into our buildings. We all remember it every year, and we get mad, and we use that as justification for the forever war. And everyone's cool with what we're doing in these countries because they attacked us on our soil. They without provocation they took down 2 of our towers. I wouldn't blame them if they're like, well, they killed our farmers, so now we have to strike back at the Americans because they attacked us for no reason.
Yes, and not to mention that there's little boys and girls in Afghanistan who fear clear blue skies, the best conditions for drones to fly.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Jeez.
Yeah. So we talked enough about how what mistakes we made, particularly with drone strikes, and let's move on to the mistakes we made in media and in culture towards Muslim majority countries. There's a lot of hotheads out there who like to paint Islam as one monolith. For example, saying, "Oh, they point to taqiyya and say, oh, all Muslims know this, or all Muslims are lying because it's in their hadith." But for example, I'm Catholic and I don't know everything in the catechism. So if someone were to say something that sounded right, I would say, I guess that's true. Maybe the Pope said that. Which Pope? Don't ask me.
Right. I mean, and it's like a clear thing too that a lot of people don't even differentiate between Sunni and Shiite. Me, as a Sunni, or raised Sunni, did not realize that distinction for years. It was almost like, I think only 2 or 3 years ago that my parents, I asked them, I was like, are y'all Sunni or Shiite? What is the difference? I had no idea. And it's so easy for the common American to not know that distinction unless we're in those Muslim extremist countries where there is a difference between government or society that it even comes up, and but that being said, there's a world of difference in between those two sects, especially how they treat things such as the response to the U.S., for example, and how they treat their people and how they treat people of the other sex also, and that's what causes a lot of internal conflict.
Yeah, most definitely. And let's talk about how we can remedy and heal this divide, because throwing out another statistic to where, okay, I'm looking down my sheet because I was too lazy to write this all out. So majorities in both Western, yes, I'm going to cite Pew for all this. I love Pew so much. But so majorities in Western and Muslim countries continue to distrust each other. And personally, I believe that the best way to, most basic human fear is the fear of the unknown. That's why we fear death. That's why we fear the darkness. And that's why we fear each other. So in place of lack of knowledge, we even stuff bad knowledge in there. As you mentioned, to where Americans don't know the difference between Sunni and Shia, so they'll conflate the two and throw in some random stuff that no one's ever said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, was there a question in there?
oh, yeah, sorry. So how do so just going around? We're gonna start off with Abu Hancho on what we can do better in healing this divide. So what do you think, foreign policy wise, we can do?
So foreign policy, at this point, we've been at war since 2001 with radical extremists. We're there. Are we playing the sunk cost fallacy at this point? So we have an obligation in the Middle East now for the power vacuum we've created. In order to fix some of this distrust, you can kind of cite to the Protestant Reformation with the IRA in Ireland. You have the Catholics and Protestants who have been blowing each other up for a couple hundred years now. And you can kind of use that as kind of a backlog for, once again, if you offer education, you're offering a way for military-age males you're giving them a excuse to not blow themselves up in order for whatever idea they have that it's going to do. A lot of times it's education has to lead the way. I'm a neo-libertarian, so I do believe in that small government, but you have to have some type of social contract in any government that you build to educate the mass, in real education, not a partisan agenda. It has to be real, straight facts and figures in the area to help these men, especially these military-age boys, give them a clear-cut way to a job, an ideology that doesn't end with violence.
Exactly. Give them the keys to a future that they can live for. Do not let them become vulnerable to extremists. Because if someone, Nafisa, what do you believe? Do you agree with Abu Hancho over here that education should lead the way? And if so, is there anything else you'd like to add to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is on point there with regards to education being such a huge factor. The reason why we have so many young men disappearing, like I said, in Bangladesh, is that you've got these village boys with no real access to education. And I personally don't have a remedy for that. I mean, Bangladesh, speaking from experience, right? It is a mostly illiterate country. It is very much so a third world country. And getting education to these young, impressionable boys is difficult. However, that other than that, there's no real solution, to stopping this like influx of young men that are impressionable again and so easy to persuade into these ideologies. If you want to look at it, you can look at these like ISIS, Al Qaeda as like fraternities, okay, like a place to belong, right? That's exactly what it is. They're giving like a family, like to these men who have nothing. They are struggling for food, struggling for like any sort of healthcare and stuff. And suddenly you have this group that's like, hey, you belong with us, like join us. That's how any cult starts. And that's exactly what extremist groups are, a cult that just got violent.
So if I can interject into her point, you nailed it on the head. What's happening is in these villages, you're using the word village boys, and that's important, is you're seeing one guy has the Quran, one, and he's the only one in the village who can read. So his interpretation, like these are people, and this is the problem Americans have, is they don't understand that these people are like early Christians, where it was that guy has the holy book, so if that guy has it, he must know what's going on. What he has the book, so why would I not listen to him? He's telling me if I don't do this, my family will be the fields will be barren, my family won't eat. So of course, if my village elder says, the book says here, you have to go fight the infidels, fight the kafir, like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like, I want my family, like my cultural assimilation tells me I have to listen to this dude. So I'm going to go to this other country to fight the infidels, to fight the invaders, and repel them out.
And they don't know any better.
So it's the bullets are not going to solve this issue. Like, I've helped build schools in Afghanistan where we literally had to walk females to school every day because if not, the Taliban are going to come and kill them. Like, it's education. And now we see in that area, like, of course, in 5 years, if we leave, the Taliban will probably retake over and put women back in the kitchen. That's a whole different subject on whether that's good or not. But the idea is, like,
Actually win hearts and minds.
yeah, like,
We can bomb them into prosperity.
yeah, like, all we're doing is making Boeing and General Dynamics and these companies filthy rich because they're building the delivery system for peace. Like, that's an absurd idea.
And as both y'all mentioned before, going back to an earlier point. Sorry, I'm very scatterbrained right now. But along with the base human fear, there's also the base need for human connection. Nafisa nailed it on its head to where all these boys have nothing to live for, and someone comes along, offers them, hey, brother, something that they don't hear that much in their lives. They give them a purpose.
That's exactly what it is.
Exactly. So we replace this with an educational family. Say, hey, future doctor, future engineer, future builder of your country. Give them a much brighter future that doesn't end with blowing themselves up in a suicide attack.
What you see
I
in,
think that's actually a perfect segue into also the Taliban, but I'll let you finish, Mike.
thank you for letting the white person go first. It's about time. What you see
Respect. I know, I get it.
exactly. What you're seeing is you're seeing in groups like Daesh, ISIS, Al Qaeda, the Taliban, like any of these groups, you have highly educated men who are building the IEDs, who are essentially figuring out the strategies to counter American policy. And then you're seeing them go, and I will give you $100 to go blow yourself up, and I will take care of your family the rest of your life. And you will be rewarded with 72 virgins and a trip to heaven. Well, my life is going to be better in heaven, so fuck it, why not? Or I'm going to take your little sister, and I'm going to rape and kill her if you don't go kill those Americans. Like, that's a very cowardly practice, but it works. So I think we're all three on the same page here, and we're nailing it on the head. But it comes down to, like, I think there's a clear definition of education first, but we refuse to do it because there's so much money involved.
Yes, but while we try to save the world when it comes to relations with Muslim majority countries, let's talk about our other eternal enemy, communist nations. So, Nafisa, you're in the heart of Miami, too, where it's basically a Cuban enclave in the United States. So this question is for you. What do you believe should be the path forward when it comes to normalized relations with communist nations like Cuba?
Okay, so there's there's multiple facets to this, and I'm also going to tie this into like the whole Muslim discussion with regards to education, and I am also going to talk about Trump's travel ban. I think it's all like important, and it all ties together in here. So Cuba's education is stuck in the 50s. Okay, like that is a point, and not only is it stuck in the 50s because of like the lack of technological advancement, but it's necessary to keep it there to almost de-incentivize like leaving, because then you're lost when you leave like the world, like into the real world, right? And the reason that they are stuck so far, and in fact they're even going back in time now, is because of the embargoes, right? And the whole concept behind that is to incentivize like a rebellion. Like communism ultimately, like based on all history, will always end in some sort of revolution. Now, whether it succeeds or fails, that's besides the point. Point is, it will result in that. Right now, because of like the relations and the proximity between Miami and Cuba, and it's so hard to get there. You have every Cuban that like gets here, whether illegally or wet foot, dry foot, whatever, sending money back home, making the like residents of Cuba almost complacent, you know, and it's just postponing further like the whole rebellion like standpoint there. And then you have, you know, like the media, like you were saying, portraying all these like the Cuban doctors or the Cuban pharmacists, best of the best, top-notch education, right? Like, okay, yeah, if we were still in the 50s, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have like the medical like technology to get the comeuppance that is now, you know. And with regards to normalizing relations, I think the best course of action would be to cut off relations, to isolate Cuba, so we can finally get that revolution, so they can actually like be better, you know, and actually be like a functioning society again. Because right now they're just not. Going back to that whole education standpoint also, because I do want to talk about that. Trump's travel ban was not supposed to decrease, like, ultimately the student visas, like, coming from those countries. And the reason why that is so important is that like huge practice with regards to third world countries and whatnot. And the same was seen when my father came to the United States on a student visa, right, to get his PhD in chemistry. Now he's making great strides, whatever. The whole stance there is that a lot of people come here to the U.S., get their education, and then go back to their home countries and pass on that knowledge, bring the knowledge that like our technology provides, spreads it there, okay, allowing them to like, you know, reap the fruits that they sowed here. And by eliminating like the student visas coming from the countries affected by the travel ban, we're ultimately you know, delineating like the potential for
sorry, you're
being
kind of
educated.
sorry, you were kind of a bit at your last part over there. Would you mind repeating your last sentence?
Sorry?
You were cutting
The
up a
last
little.
sentence?
You were cutting up a little bit on audio-wise on your last part, your last sentence.
Okay. Well, too long didn't hear. My main point is that the U.S. is able to facilitate education, okay, immensely, by reducing the amount of student visas we accept from countries, whether they're Muslim, whether they're else, whatever. We are directly affecting the ability of third world countries and other places in which education is so necessary, by, you know, like limiting them. And we're stuck in all these wars and whatever, where, like we were just talking about, education is so important. And with regards to relations with Cuba, I don't know if that part got cut off. My whole stance was that we need to cut off relations entirely with Cuba, isolate them into finally getting the revolution that they need.
Yeah, and it goes into it's a very nuanced area between two sides of this philosophy. One philosophy says you have, as you mentioned, is that we have to cut relations, otherwise we are just enabling them to postpone the revolution indefinitely. A revolution that needs to come from, change needs to come from within, it can never come from the outside. And there's the other side of the argument, so that's the revolution side. There's also the reformist side. The reformist side says we need to have normalized relations, such as they point to the Eastern Soviet bloc countries, to where we normalize relations with them, to where trade and culture proliferated so successfully, to where they increase in democratic measures and economic prosperity compared to their communist beginnings. However, the counter argument to that is when someone looks at the biggest communist country, China, and how, yes, they have more free trade, but now there's more authoritarian governments with measures
Right.
such as this social currency. But that's a whole another topic. But it's just to emphasize that there's no easy answers and there's merits to all sides of the coin, because in the revolution side says this needs to be done, you might as well rip the band-aid off, versus the reformist side that says we'd like to do this with as little bloodshed as possible. So there's room for debate there. But Abu Hancho, what are your feelings towards this debate?
So a couple of points to one of the things you said is communism in China and communism in Cuba are two distinctly different things. Like it's shades of green at this point with communism. It's what is the definition of communism has turned into this ubiquitous thing that the American left wants to champion and refuse to see it for what it is, and it's a plague on humanity. From a personal standpoint, I refuse to deal with a communist government. Like I don't acknowledge it. I don't see it because it's nothing but human rights violations over time. Not here for it. And I always, you hear the question asked, like, what communist governments worked? And there's not a single working point of communism on the planet. It's all great in theory, never in practice. To revolution has never been nonviolent, and it's never going to be nonviolent. If you want to change someone's ideology and culture, you have to do it violently. And I'm not advocating for violence by any means. However, we can look at the trends in the history and say that when the revolution happens, it's going to be violent. It's a fact of life. You will wake up tomorrow morning and the sun will rise in the east and set in the west. It happens. Like that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, just to have your point here on revolution having violence. Speaking as a Filipino immigrant, the Marcos regime was a dictatorship in the Philippines. Some people like to point to that and say, "Oh, that's a non-violent revolution because they didn't kill government soldiers." But I counter that point by saying, "But they protested en masse. They proved they have the numbers, they have the force necessary to have a successful revolution." So it doesn't always have to be violence, but you have to be capable of violence of yourself.
We're seeing two revolutions currently happening, one in Hong Kong and one in your home nation of the Philippines. It's just very quietly talked about. Hong Kong, it's really funny to watch the American media try to spin Hong Kong protesters in a negative way when we want protest en masse to get rid of Orange Man. Like, okay, is this really how y'all want to go down? And then you have, I can't remember president, I think, do you remember the president of the Philippines' name?
Oh, the current one, Duterte.
Yeah, Duterte. I never pronounce it correctly and I always feel bad. He essentially has kill squads. And if you resist what he's doing, he will send you to an area where you will be killed by Muslim extremists. And whether or not that's working to remove corruption and drugs from the government, I'm not here to say. I mean, I think some of the things he says is hysterical, but that's on more of like a shitposting type way. Like the Cuba, I do feel strongly about Cuba, and that's actually the only thing I credit to Obama is lifting some of the trade embargoes for Cuba, because it's going to make a lot of money for enterprising entrepreneurs. And it's going to provide the U.S. with an untapped market for Cuba. Cuba has a phenomenal, I've never met a Cuban immigrant I didn't like. That's personal experience. And it's a hardworking society, because if you don't work hard, you're getting sent to the gulag.
And they're all entrepreneurs too, because they have to be. They have embraced the concept of the black market thoroughly.
And the black market is what type of economic system? Oh, capitalism invented by white people.
Blame everything on capitalism. Blame everything on white people when in doubt.
Yeah. Oh, we got to spell it "Y people" so we don't get kicked off of Facebook like that fat black lady.
Yeah, no, I mean, Cuba is literally, like I said, going back in time. Right now, they have moved on from cars because they no longer have gasoline, and they can't have other traditional forms of transportation either because there's no food. So we are pre-horse and car era. We are just on foot in Cuba now. Oil, lard, actual currency. like away of the black market.
What's funny is there's boats that come out of the Yucatan in Mexico that transmit pirate radio signals of Western propaganda into Cuba using AM
Okay.
radios. It's hysterical. I spend a little bit of time in South America because I like brown women. So it's really funny. It's really funny to see, like, what's that boat? Why does that boat have a 15-foot antenna on it? Like, that's a little excessive. Like, oh, they go sit 50 miles off the Cuban border and transmit radio. Like, and there's Cuban ham radio operators that are just trying to get music and things like that. Like, how does that not strike people as early Cold War era policies when people were buying Levi jeans and vinyl in Russia? Like, how do we not make these, like, points? Like, how do you not put this together that something off of our border is literally going, like, you said it back, they're going back in time. Like, pretty soon all agriculture in Cuba will die off because they're being starved out. So you hit it. I'm gonna agree with you. It's hit it right on the nose. Just starve them out. Like, Alexander had the best idea: wall them off and let them starve to death. Eventually they'll give up or they'll die.
Okay, something incredible happened. Nafisa, you changed my mind on the recording because initially I was pro normalizing, but just hearing your points and you articulated well about the necessity of it, that revolution needs to happen sooner or later, but it has to happen.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yes. See, there's folks out there who say that I can never change my mind. Look, follow the example of this spicy woman.
Yeah, the spicy woman. Well, maybe we can work on
Everywhere I go,
heterosexuality.
I induct people into my spices.
As long as you don't duck me into an essential oils cult.
Oh,
Well, the best part about having her Skyped in is I don't have to get the curry smell.
Oh, dude, she's like Indian.
right.
I'm sorry, I had to make the joke. Come on. I've been waiting for, like, a good time to make it.
Listen, I am an excellent cook, and now you'll never experience it.
Well, Abu Honcho might not, my Concho will. Enterprising entrepreneur white man.
Yeah, but
Absolutely.
so things don't get too serious. Let's just BS for a little bit about essential oils cults because that's just been bothering me.
Okay, so let me get you started about MLMs, for example. Like, capitalism is great. MLM is not. Okay, doTERRA, not. I get it. Utah, and I'm saying this as having lived in Utah. Okay, I am Mormon. I've lived in Utah. The whole idea of, like, keeping your women at home and having them, like, work is great. I like that. Like, you know, the stay-at-home, like, business entrepreneur mom thing, love it. Why the heck is a whole state endorsing a multi-level marketing scheme? Why? And how is it working? I don't get it. It is working. And Mary Kay, like, not just doTERRA, Mary Kay thrives in Utah. Like, it's a thing. Utah is, like, the home of MLM schemes.
Well, you hit it right on the head with MLM schemes. From the soldier perspective, you know, I am active duty military. Fat military wives love multi-level marketing schemes. Like, if you're a soldier, eventually you will be targeted by one of your buddies' fat wives who wants to sell you Scentsy, some type of essential oil that's going to cure everything, some form of weight loss wrap. Like, if you put this around you, you can eat whatever you want, fatty. Like, no.
Right.
Well, first of all, how are you going to sell weight loss products and you're 250 pounds and 5'4"? Come on. Like,
Follow their weight loss progress.
yeah, like, that doesn't work. And then you have, like, the Mary Kay lady, like, you look like the It Clown. Stop it. Stop it. I don't need that in my life.
Yeah, definitely. We need to lead the way in education and stopping terrorist organizations and multi-level marketing schemes and communist regimes, but especially the middle parts, the multi-level marketing
These are
schemes.
all right.
You know, if you think about it, if we look at the 1950s, women weren't selling multi-level marketing because they were busy cooking dinner.
Hashtag it works raps.
I'll get right to that. I've been summoned. We're
And
going to have a cameo.
and now we're doing the right thing. Ladies and gentlemen, we've started to solve a global problem.
Yes, and yeah, and while I would love to support all multi-level marketers, especially those who add you on Facebook, you haven't talked to them since high school, and they say, "Hey, how's it going? What do you do for work? How you like to be your own boss?"
Boss babe.
Look here, boss babe. I don't need coffee that costs $11 that makes me shit. I don't.
Okay, boss babes are the real infidels. Let's just agree on that right now.
They're gonna.
These are the real infidels.
Well,
That's
as you see
the
my
quote.
traditional garb, boss babes will join the rest of the non-haram people on the roofs that I'm gonna be throwing off.
Yes, but the first, oh yeah, but the first one we got to throw off the roof. As far as it is called the Minority Report, and our nomination for deporting this week is the devil himself, John Bolton. So yeah,
I don't like John Bolton. I think there's a better person we can deport, but I'd like to hear your reasons.
yes, the reason for John Bolton is that even Trump said this. There isn't a war that John Bolton doesn't like.
Oh yeah, him and General Mattis. Oh, you war makes politicians money. It's easy to send 18-year-old boys to go make you millions of dollars. Like next to the Catholic Church, like politicians are the best at raping young men.
And before we go insane in the membrane, as far as John Bolton goes, he's always been a war hawk policy advisor for as long as I can remember. And he tried to put out his troika of tyranny of 3 new targets to take out ever since the Axis of Evil lost fashion. And I know that President Trump, I voted for him, says has the best people in, but you gotta deport John Bolton. That is your 2020 campaign slogan right there. Vote for me and he gets supported live stream.
Well, who's your person? Mike?
Ilhan Omar, that incestuous brother fucking
Okay.
extremist.
Oh, yes, I do remember the poll, and I was the deciding factor. So we are back to that. Okay, so pros and cons. White male. Okay. Very icky in general. I will say that. Okay, so I don't like either of them. So who will my vote be for?
I mean, if you want, you can just always say, ¿Por qué no los dos?
¿Por qué no los dos?
That type of language is going to end with you on the other side of the wall.
No.
Yeah, it was like the little taco commercial.
Wall.
No, but in all seriousness, like, kind of, I want to give some, like, kudos, like, as, like, to Ilyan, because of the whole, like, tax fraud thing. Like, I get it, okay? Like, it's, like, the whole libertarian dream to commit tax fraud all day long, every day, right? So, like, okay. On the other hand, I feel like John Bolton gives you a job, Mike.
I mean, John Bolton's going to keep me in business for the next.
Yeah,
millennia.
so who's our final vote for then?
I'm all for voting for. I'm all for voting for John Bolton, as long as I get to tell Ilhan Omar to go fuck herself. Like, that's all I wanted to do. And I would like AOC to give me your number so I can.
Being a minority.
Look, I'm a white man trying to get brown women. Like, if you didn't have a man, I'd be hunting you too.
So, did you guys hear about Elizabeth Warren's like take on her parents' controversial wedding?
No. Please educate me.
Educate us
Okay,
wise.
so Elizabeth Warren went on this like whole rampage thing. Like, you know, it was so brave, courageous of her parents to like run away and get wed because, you know, of course, like the whole tribal issues and whatnot, right? She just, you know, like very carefully forgot to mention that the whole community celebrated them. And there was no controversy. So to be honest, being from, you know, going to school in Boston and whatnot, I'm going to do my vote for my favorite minority because she actually does claim to be a minority. Elizabeth Warren, that's my vote. That is who I want to deport ASAP right now.
All right.
today.
We have a 3-way deportation for this episode then.
Well,
So,
luckily, we have a big, beautiful wall coming, the only BBW that matters. So we can get all 3 of them. But as long as we promise to get Elizabeth Warren and Ilhan Omar eventually, I'll throw my vote for John Bolton.
Yeah, so goodbye, John
Oh my
Bolton,
God.
and your stupid mustache. Goodbye, Ilhan Omar, and your, oh my God, how dare they attack me? Here's my minority shield, so you can never criticize my ideas. And Elizabeth Warren, oh, I was told this by my family, but never questioned it, so can you really blame me?
the deniability card.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they can take the diabetes card and their essential oils over the wall.
Elizabeth Warren's the one we didn't get at the Little Bighorn, because she's a Native American.
Right.
All right. And this seems like a great part for any final thoughts and to drop any, if you're willing, no social media tags for you because.
You can follow the Mike Honcho Twitter.
Follow my college at Twitter, yes. So what is that?
It's Mike Honcho on Twitter. If you can find me, you can follow me.
Ooh.
Yeah, final thoughts wise, we owe a great amount to our founders and the ideals that they put. We're not a perfect country, but we're the best country. I think everyone at this table can agree to that. Like we have made economic prosperity the forefront of our policies for ever since the founding, and the idea that maximum freedom without government intervention has been the best thing. We talked a lot about education here, and I think that's something to be said. That education is definitely what's going to be the forefront of the millennial war. Like going into the Zoomer generation, you're going to see a rising tide of education moving policy forward. The more you strangle someone with regulation and red tape and essentially de-incentivize them to have free thought, the more you're going to see violence in the streets.
Yeah, most definitely. And our lovely and from the heart of Miami, Nafisa. Final thoughts and any social media tags you're willing to drop.
Yeah, y'all can follow me on Twitter if you so dare, at Based Bengali. And my Instagram is Little Bengali. I am Bengali. And I am little, and I am based. So it's all fitting. That being said, final thoughts. Overall, if we want to sum up everything, I think America's foreign policy really needs to be America first. We have spent a lot of energy on everyone else, and we are continuing to do so. But I think we also need to focus on the issues at home, and there are quite a few. With regards to education, with regards to freedoms, all of that, yes. I just think we need to be a little thoughtful, and we need to grant ourselves that opportunity, definitely.
Yes, most definitely. And as far as my final thoughts go, I definitely agree with, I know it's a lot smaller show, but I've really enjoyed Nafisa changing my mind on air. So, y'all
it's just me.
Yes, I came in with the entire, we need to have normalized relations with everyone and then freedom will just naturally happen. But y'all two put the real world back into me and say, hey, revolution happens when there is no other choice and we're just enabling them. By that part, we do more harm with an open hand than a closed fist. And when it comes to education, as both of y'all pointed out, we need more books, we don't need more bombs. We need to give them a way out. So when it comes to revolution, people need to change from within and fight for their way out. Whether it is through direct violence or the threat of it by saying, hey, we outnumber you on the streets, you need to reconsider stepping down. Or when it comes to a policy of Muslim majority countries to where we already shed blood, we need to be the America that we aspire to be. Because my family, we didn't immigrate to America because we thought it was a horrible country. America, to me, is a beautiful promise. And sure, we had mistakes in the past, but the beauty of this art, this masterpiece, is that we are a continuing work in progress. Sure, we are not perfect now, but every step we take, we're getting there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's an American dream.
Yes.
America first.
America always.
Yes.
And as far as social media tags go, I am when I'm not banned on Facebook, I am Christopher Ian Solera on Facebook. There's 2 Facebooks of me. One with a picture of Ron Paul, where I don't have my facial hair. That's my dead Facebook. So go to my normal Facebook where I do have my mustache. and you can, and also what I'm doing for a follow episode of this show, for every panel show, I'm going to do a solo follow episode for anything you viewers or listeners out there have questions or want us to explore in detail. I'm more than happy to do that for you. Just email me at Christopher Ian Solera at The Minority Report. Put your comments or questions in the comment section below on YouTube or Facebook, and I am more than happy to address any questions. As said, education lights the way, so let's light the way. And from all of us at The Minority Report, Have a great weekend and deport yourself into a better life.